So, hello and welcome to yet another session of Gosu Academy. Today, what we will be talking about is something that got recommended to me by one of the people from the Academy. Since I've recently signed for NIP as a coach, today we'll be talking about what makes a good coach. This is relevant for a lot of people because there are a lot of people who maybe don't make it as a pro and will eventually want to transition into coaching. At least where I'm from, Scandinavia basically, it's already pretty common that you have esports, or more specifically Counter-Strike, in schools. And being able to have a job that allows you to work with Counter-Strike without being at the top of the professional level is something that is quite high on a lot of people's lists, since Counter-Strike, is very fun. At least I think so, and I think a lot of people think so. So because of that, it's a good way to prepare you for this. The reason why I think it's a good topic for everyone is because if you are wanting to get into coaching, this is a great place to look. But also, if you are a player and you are going to be evaluating coaches, it's relevant for you to know what makes a good coach so that you can judge them accordingly. On top of this, there are plenty of things that we will be talking about today, which I would say makes a good coach, but that I have seen as traits in other professional players that have really impressed me during my time. And it's those things are, actually pretty much the same as what makes a good coach. But if this is something you can add to your own game, the likelihood that you will have a sort of safe position on a team is simply much higher, and that's why we'll be talking about that today. So let me real quick turn down the volume a little bit, and let's just talk about how it is to be a coach. Basically, I split up coaching into three different categories. Basically, there is the analytical part. So this is like theory, this is tactics, basically anything that has to do with understanding the game of Counter-Strike. This is, in my opinion, a pretty much must-have for a coach, but there are certain situations where this might not even be that necessary. Even though it sounds kind of crazy, I myself have worked in a team, a professional team, full-time salary, everything, where our coach had basically nothing to say when it came to the strategical aspect of Counter-Strike. Instead, he was much more in category 2, which is, the Danish word I have for it is mandskabspleje. It's like, I would characterize it as basically understanding people. Like, there goes so much into coaching. Even if you want to be improving on your players with something tactical, you need to understand how different people want different feedback. I played, for example, with a professional player called Percy, and this guy, he hated when I would beat around the bush with my feedback. So if I felt like he did a mistake, like let's say maybe he was tilting, maybe he did something, he was hunting ecos, maybe he was blah blah blah. If I would address that as guys, we need to focus a little bit more and stop making stupid mistakes, or if I would say, guys, we need to stop tilting, he would take offense to that. Basically, he would be mad that I didn't tell him directly, Martin, you have to stop tilting. Martin, you have to stop hunting ecos. And understanding that different people have different ways of wanting feedback is a really, really big thing. Because some people want it very directly, and some people, want it more wrapped up in a bow, I guess. It's almost like you have to make the feedback sound like you don't have a problem with it. It sounds kind of weird, but it is true. I know I myself was in that category when I was starting out in Counter-Strike specifically, but I think to some extent I still am. If you have feedback for me as a person, what I like the most, typically, or at least what worked best when I was a player, was giving it to me in a way where, like, I think you are not being, whatever, aggressive enough with your AWP, so I think it would make the team better if you would try to do more aggressive moves. That would be an example of giving myself feedback, whereas there are other players where you literally have to say, stop being such a fucking beta, like, go and kill them now. Understanding that different people take the feedback in different ways, and just overall people are different is a really big thing. Especially if you start playing in international teams, there is typically a pretty big, how can I say it? There's typically a pretty big, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what I'm at least trying to say is that I think a lot of Scandinavian people want things wrapped up in a bow, whereas there's a lot of Eastern European players I've played with who like are much more direct. I think some people may or may not know, but I currently live in the Netherlands, even though I'm normally from Scandinavia. And compared to Scandinavian people, the Dutch people are far more direct. If something is wrong and they know that there is a way we can fix it, they will just tell you, this is shit. We need to do this, or something like that. And understanding, this difference in people is a really big part of coaching. It goes further than just feedback as well, because being good at understanding people and being, empathetic and stuff like this will allow you to more easily deal with any drama that occurs in the team. I think it is no secret that there has been a ton of, some of the world's best lineups that have died only due to drama outside, basically the game of Counter-Strike. There's the very famous Virtus Pro lineup with Tez, Nex, Pasha, Bialy, Neo, where when they finally won their major, Tez was gifted a Mercedes, and it's by the owner of Virtus Pro. And that one was funny because people thought it was a little bit weird. At least I remember thinking it was weird that he was the only one getting a car. But it actually ended up, at least from what the stories we've been told, kind of tearing the team apart. Some people were upset that Tez was given a car for winning the major, when the others were just as much of a part of it as he was. And understanding and balancing the sort of drama in a team is a really important job of a coach, because there has been millions of lineups dying to this. Another famous one, now that Na'Vi have just won the major with Alexi B, there's the old ENCE roster where Alexi B obviously got removed, and basically shortly after making a major final, we've all seen the pictures of him basically sitting on a bench and crying. And that is something that potentially would have been able to be avoided if the drama would have been balanced better. Then the last category, so basically we had like the analytical category, or like the strategical, tactical, whatever. We have like player management, I guess we'll call it. And then we have the last one, which is basically just mental coaching. The top organizations, one that I am in right now, obviously NIP, have, for example, we have a guy called Troels Ruppel, who is the head of performance of NIP. And he is, I believe, very close to becoming a psychologist, or maybe he just became it. I'm actually not sure. But he is a guy who knows everything about nutrition, about physical activity, about mental coaching, about all these kind of things. Now, this is a luxury that the top teams have that lower tier teams don't necessarily have. That's why, as a coach, one of the categories that I think is important is understanding the mental aspect of the game, Also because the director of performance will probably not sit in on every single practice. And there will for sure be times when the coach will be sort of picking up the mantle, I guess is a correct saying, and trying to, I guess it's in a way also about player management, but it is more about making sure that people approach the game in the correct way. So I'll give you a example of each of these things, and like an actual example from my coaching of NIP female, and afterwards we can talk a little bit about what kind of things can you do as a player, which is something that kind of is a coach's responsibility, but as you're coming up or playing at a lower level, these are the things where even as a player you can become a great teammate by adding it to your game, and also it will increase the chance of winning, basically. So just from an analytical point, I don't want to give too much away about specific tactics we have, but I'm obviously doing a lot in terms of setting up the play, like kind of making sure that we have a system in place that makes sense. Sometimes we will add a tactic and I will be the one noticing that something is going wrong or could be done better. Sometimes I will be, specifically adding a new tactic. Sometimes I will be pushing players to change the way that they play individual rounds, or I will be talking to my AWP player and I will be, discussing various AWP peaks that you can do on both T and CT to try and not only guide the team on like a macro level, as I call it, where we're talking the overall game, but also on like a micro level, which is more individualistic, and make sure that my players perform better. The thing is, if either one of my 5 players in my team raise their individual skill level and start consistently playing better, my team will become better. There is no situation where Kiara on my team gets better at playing A on Mirage, and because of this, now our B player gets worse at playing B. This is simply not possible. So when trying to make a team better, there always needs to be a mixture of people who have the macro level in mind, typically a coach and an IGL, maybe one more player. But besides that, you are expected to have players around the IGL coach and maybe the one more vocal player who are able to focus basically only on their own individual performance and get it consistently high. I'll just give you an idea. I don't think I've shown you this guy. I don't think I've shown you this smoke yet. I'm not sure if it actually has like a good use. But anyway, here's a lineup. You can go in this corner, and if you want to retake B, you can go from this ledge up to here. You can run, and when you hit this ledge, I believe, if I didn't mess it up, actually you can aim more to the right. Let me try it one more time. I think like this potentially. This is a smoke that lands in the middle of the windows here in a way where the AWP player from the T's who are holding kitchen cannot hold this angle. I don't know why the smoke is so weird. And it also gives space for our flank if we have a flanking player who can come up and walk through the smoke and try to catch a timing. It basically removes a good place to play for the T's. Sorry, that was a sneeze. And then it also allows our flanking player to come up close before getting spotted, and then being able to play as a basically playing as a kind of joker. This kind of out-of-the-box thinking is something that even when I was a player, I rarely had time for. But now that I'm a coach, not having to put in a ton of deathmatch hours means that I'm able to put this into trying new stuff and finding new ideas, basically. This is an example, or there's just many examples about how you can promote the tactical evolution of your team, and to pull sort of a parallel to how you can add this category to your own game is, and I guess I will be name dropping a little bit. When I played with Kerrigan, who is in most people's minds the greatest IGL of all time, and also definitely in my opinion the greatest IGL I've ever played with. I remember specifically we played a match against some team. I'm actually not even sure. I think it was G2 at CS Summit when I was standing in for Mousesports. And we played those two. And Kerrigan told me, oh yeah, by the way, G2 on those two, they have this specific A execute where they do a smoke here, and they do a smoke here, and they do flashes here and here and here. And I suggest you go and watch a demo so you can see exactly how the execute works, so you are prepared for it, because this is something different that most teams don't have. That's an example of Kerrigan not being a coach, but instead being a player and doing something from a strategical point of view that made my performance as a player better. It seems like a very regular thing, but one of the things that I think I was, for example, missing with Blame F, this is basically the only bad thing I have to say about him when I played with him, is that Blame F is individually a fantastic player. And I think, in fact, also he is a fantastic IGL. I would say he is the second best IGL I've ever played with. This guy is absolutely crazy. But one category where I think he isn't good enough is this kind of thing that Kerrigan did, which is basically using or giving feedback to players on his team to improve them, is something I think BlameF lacks. And I think that is why we haven't seen a ton of young talents come up and become the next big thing with BlameF. It's simply because, it's not simply because I talk about it as if it's 100% like this. But I think there are other IGLs out there, like Kerrigan, like Cyclone that I've played with, and other players like this who will watch through a previous match that we've played, and then will, from that, give feedback on players specifically as well to try and improve them. Of course, BlameF also did this from time to time, but I just remember BlameF as more of a guy who would focus on his own individual performance in terms of reviews. Like, he would review the matches himself and see what can I do better. Then he would look at, okay, from a team perspective, what can we do better? And he left the development of the other players a little bit to their own. This is one of the aspects where, even though it's a category that is key for a coach, it's something where different IGLs have different aptitudes, I guess it's called, for this. Some are really good at improving other players on their team with feedback and teaching, and some players focus more on how can we make the team better. That's one example. In terms of the player management, this is something that I would say Cyclone is fantastic at. Obviously, I didn't spend that much time with Kerrigan, but Cyclone to me has always been fantastic at this. He's also one of the guys who has taught me the most about Counter-Strike. If he might actually be the guy who has taught me the most about Counter-Strike throughout my time. But I remember specifically one time, this is an example of someone who's doing it well, where I was playing at Copenhagen Games, and I had just been playing for Sprout for a long, long time. And Cyclone had obviously been playing with me in Sprout, but he had been there maybe 4 months, and I had been there maybe 10 months. So I played Copenhagen Games as a mixed team with him and some other players, and I saw it as my duty to use my experience to promote better, like to make my teammates play better. So almost every round we lost, I would come with some kind of a comment like, we probably shouldn't have done this, or maybe we should have done this instead, and blah blah. And I obviously did it with my best intentions. It was in no way to hurt the team, but I think it came across as whiny, and I think it came across as kind of as if I know better than everyone, which obviously was not at all what I was trying. And I remember in between some of the matches, Cyclone came to me privately. He said, "Hey Nedo, can I talk to you?" We walked outside the event, and he just pulled me to the side and just said, "Hey, I appreciate that you're trying to, give feedbacks, but right now there is like comments every round, and I think it's, hurting our chances to win this tournament. So just think about it, and I think we will play better that way." And the way he approached it, I didn't, have any reason to ever get defensive or something like that. So I just said, "You know what, Cyclone, I hear what you're saying. I think you're correct. I will do whatever I can to fix this." And obviously I don't know his point of view on this, but from what my experience was that, I listened to what he said, I changed it for the better, and him pulling me to the side and giving me this feedback actually made me a better player on that mixed team. This is an example of someone who is doing player management really well, but I have also had other IGLs that I've played for that would, now I will kind of mention someone else. It feels kind of bad mentioning people for things that they did wrong. I have had a talk with this player, and I know, well, I've actually even had an apology from this player. We've talked it out. I think we both are smarter at this point. That's why I feel comfortable sharing it. But when I was playing in Nordavind, I was some of the time IGL, and some of the time we had HS, the Estonian player, as IGL. And I think HS is one of the most dedicated, hardworking players and people I've ever met. That guy would literally work like 15 hours per day. And he would never stop thinking Counter-Strike. The problem for me was that he would sometimes focus on the wrong things. He would see a problem, like for example, he would maybe think that I was, playing too passive or ending up in bad situations with AWP. And so one of the things he, for example, did was he made me A player with AWP. So I was not allowed to rotate at all. I was AWP player playing A on Mirage. And then we played mid with 3 rifles, which was insane. On Inferno, at some point, I was playing AWP on CT, but on T side, I was playing Boiler, which is a position where you absolutely cannot have the AWP. And so there was different maps where I had roles that were normally planned for like a second AWP, or not even an AWP at all, but I was put into these positions because he felt I was not good enough at reading the game and rotating, for example. Then he would lock me to one position as AWP, and I couldn't go anywhere else. Or he would put me in a spot where I couldn't play AWP at all. On top of that, he at some point took the AWP from me. At some point, he gave the AWP to Croman. And this was an example for me of bad player management. Instead of helping me work through my shortcomings, which he also obviously did, I'm not trying to only paint him as a bad guy. He also tried that, and probably this was because he felt like I wasn't improving fast enough, so it's also absolutely on me. But the important part there was that he was looking, like he saw the problems, and he was looking for the solutions in the wrong place. Instead of teaching his teammates how to play the game in a proper way, he thought, okay, maybe we can make a quick fix. Sometimes, on overpass, I would be playing B rotation, and the next day I would be playing short. And it completely killed all motivation I had to actually watch demos on my new positions, because I would change position. I would work really hard, watch a lot of demos to get used to this new position, and then a week later I would have a new position again. What would be the point in me trying hard and watching a ton of demos if anyway all that work would be wasted a week later when he would change my position again? This to me was a bad example of player management. Another example of bad player management was when I joined Heroic. I was playing a mouse called Rocket Cone Pure Howleye. No one ever played this mouse, basically. And I was probably one of the only pros, if not the only pro, who was actively playing this mouse. So when I joined Heroic, my coach at the time, Peacemaker, he looked at my mouse and he said, I think you should change your mouse to something that has a more updated sensor. And so I did. And I can't blame, my bad performances at the start of the team only on changing mouse. But I think this is an example of, in my opinion, bad player management, where instead of actually even giving me a chance with that mouse that I'd been playing as my main mouse for 7 or 8 years, basically, he recommended me to change my mouse as the first thing when I joined my first sort of tier 1 team. And this was probably part of why I had a rough beginning to that team. I think those kind of things you should not touch. If a player has an old mouse but he's playing good with it, let him do it. After 1 month, Peacemaker decided to change. I say Peacemaker, he was the one that approached me with it, so I assume it was the case. Like, he kind of took my AWP away from me and asked me if I would want to try to play Rifle, and I felt I didn't have a choice, so I said yes, and I ended up playing Rifle for the rest of my time in Heroic. Again, an example of, in my opinion, looking for the fix in a wrong spot. When it comes to the mental coaching aspect of Counter-Strike, there is no better coach. This won't be a player, but there's no better coach that I can mention than my beloved coach, the best coach I've ever had, in my opinion, Toby. This was a absolutely amazing guy who I had the pleasure of working with for basically a full year in Sprout. And what set aside Toby from the other coaches was the analytical aspect. He had it covered because he was a former professional player who had been IGL. On top of this, in terms of player management, he was a wonderful man that I could talk to about anything. Doesn't matter if it's Counter-Strike or issues in my personal life or whatever. Anything player management-wise, he did it. I remember at the beginning of Sprout, I was nervous and I was struggling to play aggressive because of it. And I remember just one time before a match, he just told me, just play it as if you're playing FPL. Something so small as getting that sentence from him changed my whole game that day. And this was an example of player management where he made me a much better player with such a tiny, tiny little detail. He always had time to talk about anything, and he was just really good at handling the drama, because on Sprout there was honestly a lot of drama, as with any professional team basically. But he always handled it very well. And what the reason why I worked so well with him, I think, was because he was, I guess, a little bit like me, a softie on the inside. So he was a very kind of touchy-feely guy in terms of he understood emotions. Some coaches will just tell you to stock it up, or you need to harden your mind, or blah blah blah. This to me is not good. He wasn't like that. In terms of the mental coaching aspect, even though he had no, he had no education about this. Well, Toby was also a sort of former professional poker player. And for anyone who knows poker will know it's basically strictly a mental game. It's all about reading your opponent. It's about, it's actually, a lot about probability and luck. Counter-Strike is a game that's a lot about probability, less about luck, I would say. But the thing with playing luck-based games professionally is that tilt becomes a real factor. maybe you are playing perfectly every single hand in poker, but you can still end up losing down to luck. And you can be the better player, and you can lose to a much worse player because of luck. Tilting is a really, really big thing in poker. And Toby was, a master of untilting and taught me a lot in that regard. Overall, it was just a great team sprout for me and my personal development. So, not just with tilting, but just overall, he understood having like a winner's mindset and what things we needed to focus on. And that's something that I think, it's a big reason why he was the best coach I've ever had. It was because he was all three categories. Now, to mention a player who I have personally been impressed with in terms of mindset is, there has been a few actually, for different reasons. One of the players, which isn't even a guy I've played with, is the player Kjærby. I remember watching the North documentaries when he was playing there, and Kjærby had times when he was playing very good. He also had times when he was not living up to his sort of own expectations. But every time when they would lose a match, he would be the first guy to say, guys, it doesn't matter. We got another tournament coming up, or relax, it's part of the process. If they would be winning, he would be the guy building people up and saying, oh my god, you're so fucking good, and you're an amazing teammate. He seemed like nothing could tilt him, nothing could shake his mind. And having a player like this on your team is worth its weight in gold. To give more examples of this, a player like Sai Wu is a player who seems to never tilt and who seems to always have fun when he plays Counter-Strike. Someone like him, he's basically untiltable, and on top of this, he brings positive energy to his team. A great guy to have on his team. And another example of a strong mental game is James. We saw it at this major. His PC crashed in a 4-on-4 after playing situation at, I believe, 11-11. If they would have won that round, VP, they would have been at the playoffs of the major. But instead, he timed out, he died. His team lost the round, they lost 13-11, they lost third map, and they were out of the tournament. It was the 2-2 game, so it was either go to playoffs or be out of the tournament. And after the game, in the interview, he didn't even mention that the PC had crashed. The first thing he said was, yeah, we were not the best team today, we lost, we still have things we need to work on, and blah, 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 blah. He was solely focused on what was in his control, and things outside his control, like PC issues or, teammates sort of tilting, stuff like this, it seems like it does not faze him at all, because his mind is so strong, and that's why his playstyle, I think, is so incredibly consistent. You can say a lot about things about James, but one thing he is consistent. He's consistently putting up performances. He is consistent in his playstyle, in that he has a very unique playstyle, but he sticks to it 100%. Another guy I can mention in that regard is BlameF. Phenomenal player, obviously, I've mentioned that already. But in terms of mental game, this guy never gets nervous. Like, he is, he's a beast. He always has such a strong focus in every game. He has good work ethic, good discipline. And these things are contagious. Like, when you see your teammate working really, really hard, you yourself will start working much, much harder and pushing yourself more than you've ever done before. So this is also a phenomenal guy. Great in late rounds, in clutches, in big games, big tournaments. Also a player with a very unique playstyle. Has been criticized for it, just like James, but still has been somewhat unchangeable, which is a blessing and a curse. But it is definitely a testament to his mental game and how much he believes in his own ability, basically. You will never hear this guy say he's bad, because he has never been bad. The last player I want to mention is the player called Poison. He has kind of fallen out of Counter-Strike for a little bit. There are definitely bad things as well to say about Poison in terms of the mental game. I can touch on it briefly. I obviously only worked with him for a week, so this is my opinion of it. I don't think Poison is the hardest working player out there, but he is extremely talented. And when I played with him, we had really important matches in Pro League against some of the best teams in the world. And the guy basically showed up 1 hour before we had the match. At least that's how it felt. Like, he literally showed up the latest he possibly could. Then he would go and play some... It almost felt like a mobile game. Like, think Cookie Clicker. It was something where it was like an idle game or something like that. He would play that for 55 minutes. 5 minutes before the match, he would play 5 minutes of deathmatch, and he would go into every match and be insane. Like, even though he statistically maybe didn't look like the craziest performer, I think he had some kind of a little bit rough rolls, and there was mostly role balancing issues overall in complexity. But the guy was crazy. Like, he didn't need warm up, and he didn't need anything. He just needed to show up because he just always knew he was the best player. And those kind of mindsets or like mental games are like, yeah, that level of mental resilience is typically only, I say typically only, but I actually think there's a point of it. Let me do like a kind of side note here. It's a point I don't think I've made in the Gosu Academy before, but I had a talk with a friend of mine from one of the Balkan countries. For the life of me, I don't know right now. It might have been Serbia, or maybe even Bosnia or something like this. What he said was that when you work with different players in Counter-Strike, some of them can be, very sensitive. But typically, if you have a player who is from a war-torn country, or a country where they have grown up with very little, these are the guys that you cannot break mentally. Like, the mental resilience of these type of players is unreal. For anyone interested, you can go to Pasha Biceps' Twitter. I believe he posted it on 1st of April, so maybe it was an April Fool's joke that I just was too stupid to understand. But I believe he posted a video of his old toilet, which was basically a hole in the wall. And he wrote something along the lines of, "This was the toilet that I grew up with. I hope now you understand why I've worked so hard for my goal." People who have so much kind of people who have everything to play for typically are very mentally resilient. If they know that they can go pro and this can bring their family out of poverty, for example, they need to be having a lot of mental resilience, because nothing will get between them and their dream. Because for them, it's not just a dream, It's not just a job. It's not just about money. It's about securing a future for their entire families. Something that Pasha succeeded in doing, and is obviously a really cool guy for doing so. For me personally, I was going to university in Denmark. For people who know the educational system in Denmark, you get paid to go to university. And I dropped out because I wanted to play Counter-Strike. But I had other options. The players that are scary, who have a lot of mental resilience, are typically the players who have nothing else. Like, CS is their one sole focus, and if it doesn't work out for them, they have very little to go back to. Sorry, that was a side note. Anyway, these are examples of players who have a great mental game, and this is definitely an attribute that you can get good at, and therefore make your teammates better, and make yourself far better. I think when it comes to it, at the top of the professional Counter-Strike scene, CS is 50-50 mental game and 50 it's 50% mental game and it's 50% Counter-Strike. Like, the higher up you get, the more of a mental game it becomes. That's what sets aside the top players from the average tier 1 player, which is obviously they are far from average. With every category, I've touched on people who I think can improve on something. For this, I wouldn't say I necessarily have a teammate who stood out to me as having like a particularly weak mental game. I think all of my teammates have had like solid mental games in some regards, and some have also had days where they have had a sort of bad mental game, me included, you know. But just today, for example, when I was streaming, I played with a guy who was on a 6 loss streak. And in the knife round, before the game even started, this guy asked, "Hey NATO, are you streaming?" To which I said, "Yes." And then he said, "Oh man, I was hoping you weren't streaming because I don't want to get stream sniped." I play with streamer protection, so my name is hidden. And on top of that, I also play with delay. There is basically 0% chance that anyone stream snipes my games. But before the game's knife round had even started, this guy had already put himself in a negative mindset. He already had found an excuse for why it was possible he would be losing. This is loser mentality, in my opinion. And going into round 5, we were behind 5-0. At that point, he dropped his weapons during a buy round. It was actually on Mirage. He went over here. He dropped all his weapons, all his utility. Then he disconnected from the server. And when he came back round 6 and forwards, he didn't use his microphone one time. He didn't listen to what anyone said. And basically just completely gave up. Every time we caught a tactic on T side, he would go the opposite spot and just basically threw the game. This is obviously a very clear-cut example of a bad mental game. It's just to give you sort of an example. But as a coach, understanding these different things is what will make you a good coach. If you're trying to become a coach, these are the categories that you should focus your energy on. If you are a team trialing coaches or a team who are looking to add a coach for whatever reason, keep these 3 categories in mind, because those are the ones you want to evaluate them on. Obviously, it's a plus if they have a nice personality, you get along great, they are nice people. That's part of it. But these 3, like having tactical depth, player management, and have some kind of understanding of mental coaching, is the 3 things you want to be going for. And if you, as a player, it's kind of in a way the same, want to take on some of the coach's responsibility, then I promise you, your teammates will absolutely love you for it. If you are the guy who maybe isn't even the IGL, but you are every week bringing something new to the table, or when you lose a match, you immediately go and review the game and you have some ideas for, what could we have done differently and stuff like that. In-game leaders will absolutely adore you, and you will have probably a very good chance of, going up the levels of Counter-Strike, because no one will have anything bad to say about your work ethic. They won't have anything bad to say about, how can I say, like, tracking your personal development. But on top of that, you will also develop your own skill faster by doing this. If you get good at player management, you don't necessarily have to be a coach. But if you notice that 2 people have a problem with each other, maybe after a match you pull them to the side, you talk to them in an environment which is sort of a safe space, right? And you make sure that they sort out their shit before you go into the next match. Or maybe, because I've also had this, I've been that guy a lot, where my teammates felt comfortable writing to me personally for comfort. So let's say I'm the player in a team, and 2 of my teammates hate each other. Well, it's possible I would have both of the players in question in my DMs asking for my opinion about the situation. Or maybe the players would use me to vent. This, for example, could be something like they feel baited by a teammate. It's always the easiest example to take. And maybe they will write to me like, I just feel like he's playing in such a selfish way and he's not listening to the tactics and he's blah, 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 blah. Instead of me sitting there as a player on the team and saying, oh yeah, you're right, yeah, that's true, he's really a piece of shit and blah, 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 blah. What I always try to take the approach of is, instead of agreeing with them, I would just ask them more questions, and I would say, okay, yeah, I get, like, nice to hear your version of the story, or blah, 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 blah. And do it in a way where they don't take it as if you disagree with them, but also do it in a way where you don't agree with them. This is a super easy way as a player on a team you can balance the drama, because a lot of the time drama comes from people just not getting their frustrations out, and they don't necessarily have to get them out with the player that they have problems with. Sometimes they just need to vent, and being that teammate who allows them to vent is very high value. The reason I say don't disagree with them, and the reason I say don't agree with them, is because disagreeing with them can sort of alienate them from you, in terms of if someone comes to me and says, oh, I think this guy is so fucking selfish, blah, blah, he's never listening, he's not working hard, blah, blah. If I say, no, I completely disagree with you, he is working so hard, blah, 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 well, it's likely that this player won't vent with me anymore. Next time, maybe they don't want to share their thoughts with me. Maybe they share their thoughts with someone outside of the team, which builds drama even further, because they get an outside perspective of it. If I agree with them and I say, yeah, you're right, he's so fucking bad, blah, 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 this also creates more drama, because it makes the guy who had the original messages, like the original drama, feel like, oh my god, I'm correct. This guy is a problem in the team, and I will keep an eye out, and if it keeps being a problem, I will try to figure out a way to force him out of the team, or force changes. That's why you want to stay impartial in a team, but still give your teammates a chance to vent, basically. For the mental coaching, I mentioned it already, but I think being like Kjærby, and being that guy who is, always, if you lose, being like, really nice try, guys, we'll get them next time, we got other important tournaments, we just need to work, we are on the right path, trust the process, blah, 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 blah. And also when you win, being the guy who really gets people to understand, like, guys, we really achieved something today. We can be proud of ourselves. We took down a good team, just us 5. We, peaked at the right time. We won a game against a tough opponent in an important tournament, and this is, the first step on a long ladder of things we can blah, blah, blah. It could also be something like your team is 10-2 down at the half, and you are the guy who's saying, guys, don't give up now. We can still win this. It starts with this. I know for a fact, this has been one of my strengths, at least, that I've always been pushing people to give that like 110% no matter what. Even if you're down 10-2, I'll be like, guys, this will be the comeback we'll talk about when we're late, like when we're older. Or I will say something like, guys, it's not over until it's over. Like, we can be sad about this match when it's over, but right now we need to change the story, we need to win it, right? Being that guy on the team, I promise you as well, will give you a much more secure spot on your team, because you're just a great guy to play with. And that actually turns into something that I also think maybe I haven't talked too much about on the Gosu Academy, but my personal approach to becoming a professional Counter-Strike player has been, for the longest time, that I have always tried to work as much on my Counter-Strike game as I've worked on my personality. I try to balance it 50-50. No one wants to play with an asshole, no one wants to play with a guy who makes his teammates play worse. And so I know for a fact that I was pretty toxic when I was younger, and I think now I'm the least toxic person out there. Maybe not the least toxic person, but I am never toxic when I play. Maybe I am sometimes when I'm playing Face It, but if I'm playing in a team scenario or something where a win is important, I will always be the guy who will be saying nice things. On top of this, I think player management, mental coaching, it's actually a small thing that goes a really long way. Giving compliments to your teammates or to your coach is something you can also do as a player. It seems really, really small, but there is nothing better than if I'm here and I'm saying, oh, can you flash? And the flash comes and boom, and 3 guys are blind, I go in and I kill everyone, and then afterwards I say, that was a great flash. You just gave me 3 free kills, you're so insane, thank you so much for being on my team, I want to kiss you. This player might not have gotten the kills, but might have won the round with that flashbang. And I believe that if people are happy, they play better. So if you give them compliments when they do something right, they just tend to do a better job in the future. They get more confidence, they get a better feeling, they just, are happier. And it affects the mood as well. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. Really. These are the things I would look out for in a good coach. I guess I want to say one more thing before I move into questions. But basically, earlier today, I had someone come into my chat who said, NATO, before you became a coach, have you ever considered going the way, like the road of an analyst? And my immediate thought was, an analyst is just a bad coach. Like, I understand the value in having an analyst because it helps you ease the workload on your coach and your IGL. For example, Na'Vi just won the major, and I know for a fact they have an analyst called Flashy. It is probably very nice for Blade and for Alexi B that they can do prep, but they also have an extra set of eyes on their opponents, so that if there's something important they missed, the analyst will look into it. Maybe the analyst looks more into things you don't really see in a demo, like statistics, or maybe they work in a different way. Like I've even heard of some teams, this was actually something teams were looking into at some point, having 2 coaches, where basically one coach was like the head coach, the other coach was kind of like an analyst, but the analyst's job was to only make anti on the team itself. So let's say, I don't think Astralis was one of the teams, but just for the sake of picking them as an example, imagine Astralis, they have a head coach, now it's going to be Ruga, but then imagine them also have an analyst, where the analyst's only job is to make anti-strat on Astralis. That way, when Astralis go into their next match, their own analyst has told them, okay, what is it probably that our opponents will be trying to abuse against us? What kind of pistols did we run in the last 5 matches that we played? Okay, every time, or 4 out of 5 times, we ended B. If I was our opponent today, I would probably do a B-stack pistol, so let's go A. These kind of things is like easing the workload, and I definitely think analysts have a space in Counter-Strike. But the point I was making is, for example, for someone like Flashy, who has been out of Counter-Strike as a player for a long time, it makes sense for him to become analyst of a top team. Because if he would become coach first, he would have to work his way up from lower tier teams, and maybe he would never work for an organization like Na'Vi. So for him to be an analyst, it makes sense, because he gets to work, with now the major winning team, and he is able to learn from, I want to say Blade is arguably the best coach in the world, and has been for some time, or at least like back and forth with Sonic. And so for him it makes sense, but I don't think it would make sense for someone like Neo, for example, to go in and be the analyst of, FaZe, because he has more experience than that. That's why he becomes the coach. Same with Taz. He becomes directly the coach of G2 because they know his resume. But someone like Flashy probably cannot go to G2 and say, hey, I want to be head coach of G2, and then they're going to be like, okay, let's do it. Anyway, again, a little bit of a side note, but my point is, an analyst is just a bad coach. The same way, like, I would even say in Nordavind, our coach, Dennis Rytter, he straight up said, I have no idea about the analytical part of Counter-Strike, so I'm not going to give my opinion. He was only a player management coach. And I would say, that was nice. I liked working with him. He was a nice guy. But I don't think he was the best coach that I've worked with, because he only had one of the three attributes. The same way, if I had a coach who was a psychologist, but had no idea about Counter-Strike, and also for whatever reason would tell the players to change roles and would pick up, like a new player to the team who was super bad and stuff like this. Well, this is also not a good coach. That's why you can have an analyst. And if you hire an analyst to just be an analyst, that's fine. But to be a coach, you have to have all three to be one of the best. And I think that's what makes a good coach. And that's what you can learn from if you are a player as well. Take some attributes from a coach, especially as you are coming up where your teams maybe won't even have a coach. You can be the coach of the team while still being a player. You can have those attributes that you are missing. And I promise you, your teammates will love you for it, and your likelihood of winning games, tournaments, and also taking steps up the Counter-Strike ladder is much, much higher. So yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my speech for today, guys. Any questions? I see like a lot of people here, so surely there's someone who has a question.
I've got a question more related to maybe finding players and that have like a similar mindset or that want to do something that you want to do in CS.
Mm-hmm.
Because like recently, since joining the Gosu Academy, I've kind of wanted to like at least find a team. And
Yeah.
I was looking on online at ways to do that, and because I'm working up to being face at 10 now, I'm face at level 8. I found
Yeah.
people around my level, and I thought we could sort of have a play. And a lot of the people advertising on like Reddit and things, they're part of like massive like online communities.
Yeah.
Less so like 5 guys who kind of want to just play and get better at Counter-Strike. They're more so like focused on like their own community sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I wondered if there was like any specific places or things that you can look at, or if ESEA, I've never played on ESEA before, so maybe that has like a system to find teammates or stuff like that, or where to get started, basically.
Yeah, I think, and this is like what I always answer this question with, because I don't know, like, just to be honest, it's just tough. Like if you are from Denmark, right, and I think this is why we have so much talent in Denmark as well. You can even join like a I guess you call it like, it's kind of like a club or like a union type thing, where you will just be with a lot of people in your age group, and you'll be playing Counter-Strike, and you will actually have a coach, and you will learn Counter-Strike from an early age. And it's easy for you to find a team there because they are all sort of like-minded, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, exactly. But you are
Except be
from...
Danish.
Yeah,
I'm from
exactly.
the UK.
Yeah, I thought so from the accent. And I mean, the UK has just a lot of players, but a more thinned out scene, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There are definitely like Faceit hubs, for example, for UK only players, and that would be a place to start because you could play there. And if you find people you like playing with, you know that they at least speak the same language as you, and you will meet a lot of the same players. Like if you play random Faceit, you will meet 100 different players in 25 different games, let's say. But if you play a UK only hub, you will probably in 100 games. Wait, sorry, did I say? Oh yeah. In 25 games, you will probably meet something like maybe only 40 or 50 different people, because a lot of the people will be playing the same hub over and over and again, you know. So that would be one place. But otherwise, my number one tip here is just like, it is hard. The best thing you can do is just get basically into any team and start playing leagues, because what is really normal is you play a league or whatever, maybe it's like ECA Open, and in there you will play a lot of other teams, and maybe if you start playing really well, even if your team doesn't get crazy results, you will get new friends in some of the other teams who will then invite you over to their team, and if they are then better, you can, you know, whatever. Or maybe you play a game against someone and it was a close match and you thought one of them was good. Maybe you just add him on Steam and see if he accepts, and then you can be like, hey, you want to play some games together? If he says yes, that's a way in with a good player that you have seen play and who knows something about you as well, right?
No, that sounds like a good way to do it, I think.
Yeah. So basically, any team is better than no team at the beginning. And then when you've played a season, you will meet new players who are around your skill level. And then, you know, but definitely also like local hubs are great. So you can meet people from your own country, because the time zones will fit, and it's easier for you guys to meet up if you want to, you know, shake each other's hand and stuff like this. They can give a lot normally as well in terms of like friendship and team. But it is tough. There is no easy way. Like I just would say play matches, and if you see someone that you like playing with in matches, doesn't matter if it's Faceit or from a team level, like EC Open or something. If you see someone you think is good and you like playing with, just add them and see if they want to play more games, and that's how it starts. Yeah. That's how it started for me, at least.
Awesome.
Yeah, no problem, man. Any other questions, guys?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could you like go into more in depth of following the traffic? Because I solo queue a lot.
Yeah.
And let's say, for example, if I don't entry and I say a teammate does it, and he gets stopped by either like a smoke or he gets sighted, and you know he just stops the push entirely, right?
Yeah.
How would you go about in a reaction to that? Like, how would we, you know, I can't really explain it very well, but.
Oh, I think I understand. I think you've explained it well. So, like, let's say the scenario here is that I go up and I'm the entry. I'm your teammate, right? I get a kill towards the left side of the site, and now what would normally be smart is that I will try to use some kind of utility, like maybe flashing stairs away or something like that, and, you know, swinging left side to try and take over left side of the bomb site. But sometimes in Faceit it happens that people go up, they maybe get a kill, or maybe they see him CT, and then they just slow down, they just stand Tetris and chill, basically. And I think it is hard. Basically, your teammate is making the wrong decision, and so it will automatically put you in a worse spot. But there are very few situations in Counter-Strike that cannot be resolved by playing slow. Like, you can always figure out multiple ways. Let's say I kill it, like, whatever, I peek with an AK, I just one-tap this guy. Okay, now my reaction is I go and I flash this and I swing and whatever, I kill one more, and now I smoke top gun and Molo jungle, and now I've won the round by myself. There's also the opportunity of me going and one-tapping this guy bomb, I flash stairs away, and I just immediately walk back and then say to my team, hey guys, let's go B now, and pop, they're gonna over-rotate to A, blah blah. Understanding that there's always an aggressive decision, or like, well, there's like a million aggressive decisions, right? And there's also a million passive decisions. Means that even if your teammate gets blocked and you don't feel comfortable overtaking him, but you also don't feel comfortable just not doing anything. Understand, like, I guess that you can always resolve a round by playing slow. Like, I think of this sometimes, right? That, let's say we go up, we kill this guy, and now people slow down and whatever. Because we slow down, the round is just destroyed, basically. Now we are 2-on-4. Let's say they have a guy who is stairs, ready to swing, because he knows you're both slow. And he's standing kind of empty, and then they have an AWP sitting on this angle, holding the cross. So that when the orb gets contact, stairs guy swings, and kills, and whatever. You have no chance. It might seem insurmountable and impossible, but in any Counter-Strike round, there is always something you can do to outplay your opponent. Like, most of the time you don't know what it could be. But like, even here, let's say I have no grenades, there's always, if I have the read, like, I think of it like this a lot. Would I be able to win a 2-on-4 without grenades and blah 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 if I had wallhack? Yes, probably I would be able to do that. Okay, so it's not that the round is impossible, it's that my reads are not good enough. Is it reasonable to know everything the CTs are doing? No. But if I can get good enough to a point where my read is really good, maybe I'm thinking, okay, so the Orbos window, he will probably be holding this angle, so maybe I can like jiggle it. Okay, he shot, and I know on this jiggle, because the stairs player is alive, that on this jiggle, maybe stairs player will swing, and now I kill him here, and now whatever, I jump back up here, now we kill the stairs player, and now I peek the orb like this instead, whatever, and now I'm on the bomb side. This is very difficult for me to play against, but there is always something I can do without grenades where I can outplay my opponent. Like, you can always do some kind of movement to make an orb miss. It requires you to do it really well, and it requires the AWP to make a mistake, but there is always that opportunity. So if your entry or whatever slows down, unless the round timer is like 20 or 30 seconds, there is always a chance to go back and go to the other bomb site. It might not be as good as if they would have just reacted, but you have to work with what you got, and that's kind of the follow the traffic theory, is that a little bit like what we talked about. You can't control your entry guy. If he doesn't want to move out of here, you need to think about, okay, what can I do for myself that gives us the biggest likelihood of winning? If that is to hide and let the CTs clear A and then play it later, or if that is to go and just run and overtake my teammate and whatever, then that is what I have to do. If I have to do this kind of weird move up here and take timing, or maybe I have to come here and I have to do con smoke, or, is this even good? It is. There's always a solution, unless you're running out of time. I don't know if that really answers your question, but...
No, that makes sense. I got it.
Yeah, but... Yeah, no problem. I'm happy you asked. I think the follow the traffic is like... It makes sense, but it also doesn't make sense, because it assumes that your teammates are imperfect.
Yeah.
And normally you would say assuming your teammates are doing things wrong is a bad thing. But still, it is not so much... I think you can do the follow the traffic where you don't assume they're going to do it wrong, but just that when you see them doing something that you think is wrong, then you adapt to it. That's, I guess, how follow the traffic should kind of work for you.
Yeah, that makes more sense now.
Yeah. Good that I can help clear that up. Any other questions, guys?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's related to like toxicity or like anger management between teammates. Let's say you have like a couple of teammates that's in kind of like a fight mid-game.
Yeah.
Let's say one is just flaming him, saying he's baiting him, and just having a bad vibe. How would you kind of go forward on trying to shut it down as fast as possible and maybe try to keep the vibes up, even though they're obviously tilted.
So this would be like a face it, right, and not like a team game, or what?
Could be both.
I mean, in a team setting, I would tell them to calm down, and like I would probably even potentially take a tactical timeout,
Yeah.
to give them a chance to calm down. Like just say, let's all take some deep breaths. Let's not even talk. I've done this previously in teams, and then I would address it with the player after the match. Be like, listen, you cannot be this toxic, this aggressive during matches. It's you might think that it's like you might think that it's helping the team because you are bringing up some valid points, and your points might be valid, but they still have to be given in the right way and at the right time. And during a match, it's not the right time, and the way you did it is not the right way. That's how I would approach it. If it's a face it, I always give people a chance to change their behavior. So if they are really toxic, I will tell them like, hey, calm down. We still have a good chance to win this match, but we need everyone to focus and we need everyone to, give it their all. I'm not giving up, and I don't want you to do it either. If they continue to be toxic, I will, keep telling them like, hey, relax, we're gonna win this match, blah blah blah, But in face it, there are situations where I resort to muting my teammates, and then I will tell the other guys on my team, let's like all mute and ignore this player and just focus on winning the match with 4, because most of the time the people who are super toxic and face it and stuff, they will also stop giving info and they will stop playing with the team and stuff like that. Typically it's better to just mute them, so that you don't waste more time arguing with them, because typically those people who are toxic will then also sit and say, oh, nice fucking shot or something annoying, and that's just more distraction. So I think the best thing you can just do is I just tell my teammates, okay, let's all mute this guy, and let's win it with 4, and just act like basically the person isn't there. A lot of the time, then if you start winning again, you can unmute the player, because as soon as you start winning again, then they are nice,
Yeah.
But I don't think there's like a perfect way to handle that. It's just like, yeah, you have to try something.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Let's do 2 more questions, if there are 2 more questions. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. I don't think I really have, like normally I always have something to say. I don't think really I have anything to say right now. Yeah, that's kind of a first for me. So I will give like a short minute, and if no one has a question, then we will end it here.
I can ask one more probably.
Yeah, go ahead. Are you, by the way, because now I could tell the UK guy was from the UK. Are you from Belgium by any chance?
Norway.
What? Okay, that was off then. I'll cut it out, it's fine.
Very off.
That was very off. I'll cut
I
it
don't
out.
know, for some reason when I play CS, my accent turns to like kind of gibberish. I don't know why. I don't keep my own accent.
Yeah.
In terms of like warming up and with a team and everything, how would you go about like just getting prepared for face-it matches? I think that's going to be valuable for everyone here. Just mentally preparing, also maybe in warm-up and trying to make sure you're in a happy state.
Yeah. I don't think I would really say what I would do specifically to prepare for a face match, because I don't really prepare for a face match, but I can just write some things. These are the only things that affect my performance, basically. So I need like enough sleep, right? I need to have eaten food, like not right before the match.
Yeah.
In Sprout, they had this thing. I don't know the science behind it, so that's why I'm saying it's a theory, but it may or may not be true. That if you eat right before a match, all the blood rushes to your stomach, and your focus becomes worse. I think it's actually true, but again, I don't know the science behind it, so don't take this as a 100% fact. Try to eat food, like, if any of you go to the gym, like, you also don't eat food 15 minutes before going to the gym, because, I mean, if you're doing cardio or whatever, if you just ate, that sucks, right? So try to eat, like, 1 or 2 hours before a match, if it's like an important match. I make sure that I have enough to drink. I'll just write water, but it can kind of be anything. Just make sure that you're well hydrated. I think you need, like, to follow your kind of warm-up routine. For me personally, it was like 1 hour of deathmatch. I would do this probably also before, like, a big Faceit session. I would do this before official matches. Some people need a lot of deathmatch to get warm. That was me. Some people don't need it at all. I've played with those guys as well. And I'm of the belief you should do what feels best for you. If you're one of those guys who don't, like, you feel better without playing deathmatch, you should not play deathmatch as your warm-up routine. But if you are one of those guys who, get better from playing deathmatch, you should absolutely play deathmatch. And be honest with yourself as well, because the easiest and the laziest thing is to just say, I'm better without deathmatch. But, like, actually be honest with yourself, because if you don't actually think that, you have to do it. Like, you have to play deathmatch or do whatever you think is correct. And then I guess the only other thing, or actually I have 2 more things that I would look at, like hours past 2 weeks. So try to keep an eye on hours past 2 weeks and find a sweet spot. For me, for example, I think when I'm playing my best Counter-Strike, I'm probably around 100 hours past 2 weeks. Like, but I know that there are some guys who maybe would play better at 50 hours past 2 weeks. Like Poison, I mentioned. He didn't need hours individually, he just played matches. And that's how he liked to do it. And, respect for that. There are also some players who want to do 150 hours past 2 weeks. But find a sweet spot. Find where you feel the best. Typically, the way I see it is more hours means better mechanics. It's like getting in shape. Like, if you're a football player, if you go to the gym a lot and you work on your fitness and whatever, you can run further. Like, you can push yourself more and run more in a match, for example. That's like an example of equivalent of mechanics, right? Yeah. But more hours also means more mental exhaustion when it comes to Counter-Strike. And so, for example, if I play 150 hours past 2 weeks and I do it for whatever 2 months in a row, I will start playing worse very fast because my mind will be so tired. So it's literally enough sleep, food, water, warm-up routine, hours past 2 weeks, find your own sweet spot, and then it is mental exhaustion. Those are the only things that I personally need. Well, I say only those things. Like, this is 6 things, it's a lot. But this is what it takes for me to be at my top level. It is balancing all those things and as much as possible trying to hit the sweet spot. I guess even like fitness, like going to the gym or doing physical exercise, it is important for some people. I think realistically it probably is for me as well, but I have been very inconsistent with gym. I think it's better when I've been gymming because then my arms are a little bit more tired and my upper body is more relaxed, so my aim becomes more relaxed as well. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there are players, again, not mentioning any names, but there are some players you can tell they don't go to the gym, and they are some of the best players in the world. So gymming is not a must, but I'm pretty sure those players still, eat proper, drink proper, sleep enough, balance the hours past 2 weeks, balance the mental exhaustion, and do their warm-up routine. So those are the things. And with like the mental exhaustion, it is, if you go for a Faceit session and you want to play 7 matches, don't play 7 matches with no breaks. Play 3 matches and do a break. Then play 2 matches, do a break. Do 2 matches, do a break. Like, even if it's a break of 15 minutes, that's necessary for you to perform at your highest level. All right. I hope that answers your question, my friend.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
Good info.
Nice. As it always is on Thursdays, guys, my lovely fiance has to work tomorrow at 7. For a lot of people who are not European, that might not mean that much, but it means I have to wake up in 7 hours, and I still need to walk my dog and stuff like that. So, I think I will end it here. I appreciate you all so much for yet again coming to the session. I hope you felt like you learned something, and that you enjoyed the time we spent together. I want to thank obviously everyone who is watching or rewatching it on YouTube, and yeah, I guess just you can put it in the comment section of my videos if you have a topic that you want me to take up. I most of the time stick to subjects that have been recommended by people in the academy. So if you want, there is a link to a 1 month free trial in the YouTube description, and if you join the academy, you will have a bigger likelihood of picking the topic for the next session. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the YouTube video, and thank you everyone for coming as well.